So they're like, man, what are you crying about, bro? You getting paid. Go cry on your millions. You know what I mean? That's how people think. Um, and not knowing that a lot of this stems from childhood. It stems from trauma. You can't pay away trauma.
I'm happy to be joined now by Dr. Larry Sanders, who played 5 seasons in the NBA with the Bucks before he retired, then came back for a short stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2017 and then left again. And now, Dr. Larry, you have turned into a serial entrepreneur. That's something you've been doing since you were a kid, selling snacks and all that out the garage. And you're also a prominent mental health advocate. But if I could go back for just a second, why did you leave the NBA?
I'm in the NBA. Not only do I have a coach, a head coach, an assistant coach, I have a GM, I have an owner. I have for the first time ever, I have someone in a position over me that is labeled a owner. I think that's so far from an entrepreneur. Is
Yeah.
to be owned by somebody is probably the furthest thing from being an entrepreneur. So I'm in the NBA. I'm having success on the court, but off the court, I'm finding myself having issues with the NBA and the stress of it. So I started smoking marijuana. I didn't start smoking weed until I was 22, my second year in the NBA. My family was unmanageable. My mom, she had issues, so money just made things a lot worse. When it came to trying to provide for her and her, taking it and making it a danger to herself. So much to manage. I had a son, I had a newborn, and I had a daughter as well. I had a newborn, and then I had a daughter a couple years later. So managing that relationship, they were sending me to rehab every summer, and it was taking away my summers. I couldn't even spend time with my family. You know, I had seasonal depression because I'm from Florida where the sun is shining every year. Now I'm in Milwaukee. There's a lot going on here. You know what I mean? There's a lot, man. So, I think I just got to a point where I knew I had to take my mental health in my own hands, and I had to get space and distance from that, and start to create for myself and get back to who I am. And yeah, it was the best decision I could have ever made.
Yeah, so clearly you're better for it and you're in a much better space than you were during that time. And because of the environment, I guess that the NBA puts you in, the Bucks and all that, Players Association, and the stigma around marijuana at the time and mental health, do you feel like the NBA failed you in the way they didn't take care of you the way you wanted to?
I always kind of revert back to like it's the business model, right? Like it's in the business model. Um, and if you don't want to be a part of the business, then just get out of it. And that was my approach. I don't think they failed me because they had no real responsibility in the business model for my mental health. I think now they're creating policy and fighting for different rights mentally and to be respected, the mental health side of things. And eventually when those things will be put into place, then they'll have a responsibility. And, then we can talk about, passing and failing. But now, no, I think the responsibility was mine. And, if, sometimes you have to give up millions of dollars or whatever you have to do, that's the responsibility you have to take. And, I just saw a lot of guys go through the system and a lot of guys make hundreds of millions of dollars, go broke within 5 years or end up really depressed or can't find themselves or, I'm like, the recipe isn't just to sit in this and make a bunch of money. If 80% of guys are going broke or dealing with like how? So, I knew it was a different path to take.
Right, it's a different path to take, and because of that, I feel the reason why, in part, the reason why you had to do that is because back in those days, um, it felt like it was very taboo to speak about mental health in sports in general, specifically for Black men. What exactly was going on during that time that led to it being such a a sensitive topic where people weren't really sure in your industry how to navigate with somebody dealing with an injury, right? That was not physical.
Well, we have the that hero stigma, right? That like we are these huge gladiators and we shouldn't be going through anything mentally because from A, we're supposed to be larger than life, and B, we're getting paid a lot of money. Go cry on your millions. You know what I mean? That's how people think. Um, and not knowing that a lot of this stems from childhood. It stems from trauma. You can't pay away trauma. You know what I mean? You can't put someone in their situation isn't their outer situation, their environment doesn't isn't gonna always change their mental state or emotional state. It rarely does at all. Maybe for a moment, maybe there's a moment of joy or bliss, but eventually, we revert back to who we are, our personality traits. And that is dictated through, a lot through our memory, our emotional membrane, our nervous system. Science. This is like this is really how we are wired as human beings. Like, and we are all human beings. Like whether you play a sport or not, you know what I mean, doesn't exempt you from being wired this way. I'm coming after Delonte West. I'm coming after, you know what I mean, like people who have been outcast, and that's
Right.
the thing that is the most. That's the scariest part about it because as humans, we're pack animals. We need each other. We want to be around each other. We want to be, we need closeness. We need hugs. We need comfort. We need support. We need community.
Yeah, people like Royce Wright. I know you had him on your podcast earlier, and other individuals, Delonte West, as you mentioned. But when you look back, Larry, at how everything went down during your time in the NBA, would you have changed anything differently, or do you feel like you needed to go through that to get to this point where you are now, where you're thriving, or at least you're pushing towards becoming a thriver every single day in your life?
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. The NBA taught me so much. How I would react to the refs, right? I would blow up. I led the league in technical fouls. I would blow up on the refs, and I had this issue with authority, and it was, eventually I understood it was me speaking to my father, finding my voice. I never found my voice with my dad. He would always speak over me, or he was very verbally abusive when I was young. So learning to have my voice when it came to authority was huge for me. So it showed me that on a public scale. And I would have these games, and I would see myself blow up and I would be disgusted. I would just be, mad at myself for reacting that way, and just be like, why? Like, why can't I get out of that? So that taught me what was going on with me, why I was reacting that way. All lessons, man. There's so many lessons within it through reflecting on it, right? And it's just made me more. It's just made me more of me and better. And I went through stages to get here, right? You go through the resentment stages, you go through, but now it's all gratitude. I'm grateful for the NBA.
Yeah, and we're happy to see you in the light that you're in right now. We hope that you just continue to grow and evolve as you become more seasoned in this world that is so hard, specifically for Black men. The other thing that, I'm really interested in, Larry, is you touched on, the authority figure, right? You were speaking to your father. What was it like to, I guess, unpack all of that? And did you ever get any resolve or resolution with your father so you could move forward and right and not hold on to that?
No, yeah, I did. And before my dad passed, we had a great relationship. A lot of conversations, and I was able to find my voice. And what I learned is my voice is it's funny because it's not an actual voice. My voice is being a better listener. So actually being able to listen and respond and with an open heart and remain present, and then from there the right voice comes out, but I was always putting a block up because of fear, fear of vulnerability, fear of um, authority. um, so yeah, and I have 4 kids, so yeah, I learned so much through them as well because now I'm the authority figure, and now I have
Right.
to, I have to listen. I have to. My main thing, because of I've learned through um, authority through power. So my main thing with them is trying to um, gain trust. You know what I mean? Like really, I want you to really trust me. Because that's one thing I didn't really trust my dad. I never really trusted my mom. You know what I mean? So to be there and to trust, it's just it matters a lot. So through it's just all a lesson, bro. It's so many lessons through reflection, and this experience of life, and I'm able to apply that with my kids and go forward, and just look forward to the more lessons to come, man. It's too much to learn. I never learn it all. So I'm excited about that.
So, Martin, one of the things, that I really found enjoyable about that interview with Dr. Larry Sanders is how people don't see NBA players or professional players who make a lot of money as humans. They see them as entertainers, as these lions, these gladiators who are not only there to serve one purpose, and that is to entertain and be a dominant product, right? But what they don't understand is how it doesn't matter how much money you have, right? You can't pay trauma away. Everybody has trauma. When he told me that, that really clicked for me because I know so many people who have a lot of money, and I'm sure you do, or you've heard stories where, yeah, you're rich, but you're miserable inside. You don't have joy for your life. And so that was something that was really profound because I think a lot of times people see these athletes as being dumb and not having any sort of intelligence or education. But clearly, he's done the work and is very reflective about who he needed to be right when he was in the NBA and who he is now. And I know, mental health and breathing breath work is really important to you and making sure athletes are connected to that to help improve their game and their life. So I just want to give you the floor to speak on, what really resonates with you when you're doing that type of work to help other people.
Yeah, I think it's just the kind of the basic thing of all of us doing the work the work of fighting off our negative thoughts, our stress, our anxiety, our fears, worries, doubts, all the things that all of us deal with, from NBA players to construction workers to politicians to teachers to nurses to media people. Everyone and every single human is dealing with things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So I found myself in a unique position as a former player and as a skills trainer, as I started to practice more consistently meditation, ever since the pandemic. Really, it just kind of became mandatory to pass this on to any players that were working with me. I'm like, bro, if you're not ready to meditate, tell your parent that I call your mom. Hey, come take him home. He's not, this became mandatory stuff because it was so clear to me the benefits that, first of all, yeah, this can help your game, and I can show you and I can explain to you how, because no one who's going to play well stressed and uptight and overthinking and worried about stuff. Who plays well like that, right? I mean, you sometimes you need a little bit of stress, a little bit of challenge, right? But you've got to be able to push through that, because it can suffocate you and it can paralyze you. So we all have to deal with things. So when I work with basketball players and I think about the stresses of the game, the stresses of today's world and today's basketball environment, it just became perfectly clear that, our young basketball players, especially particularly our young black men, it's so important that we have these resources that can come from right in here, our very own thing. One of my favorite things about meditation is that I don't have to subscribe to anything. I don't have to sign up. I don't have to sign anything. I don't have to take anything. I don't have to, it comes right from within, right from my own lungs, my own breath. And it showed me benefits and experiences that just make it so obvious that we should be practicing this.